following conversation is for a mature audience. We provide a safe and warm environment for our guests to share in their own experiences, to speak their truth out loud. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Truth Without Edits, where we dive into raw, unfiltered stories that remind us we are never alone in the struggles we face. Today's episode is about breaking cycles, facing mental health head-on, and choosing healing even when it feels like an uphill battle. It's about acknowledging pain, redefining family, and creating peace where there was once chaos. Joining us today to share her truth is Becky. Her journey through mental health and family challenges began early, and her story reflects the impact that unresolved trauma and addiction can have on a child and how those patterns can echo into adulthood. Becky has faced the hard reality of what happens when emotional wounds go unhealed, yet she continues to rise above, working to break generational cycles and create something new for herself and others. Her story is powerful because it isn't about a perfect ending. It's about resilience, honesty, and the choice to keep showing up for yourself every single day. Becky, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome to Truth Without Edits. We are meeting today for the very first time, and you're just such a beautiful person. And I know a little bit about your story because we've had the opportunity to chat on the phone, and I met you through our mutual friend Louie, who's our producer, and I've heard nothing but beautiful things about you, and I know that today's conversation is really going to empower a lot of people listening. So let's get right into it. All right, Becky, so I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning. So if you could just share, what do you remember about the circumstances surrounding your early life, those beginning years with your biological parents?
Yeah, so the beginning years were honestly really tough. And it's actually really strange because they say when you're younger, you don't typically remember a lot of like your early childhood. But it was a very challenging time. I originally was brought into this world by my biological mother, who faced her own mental health issues, who had addiction and a bunch of other things that she was really battling with that I never really fully understood until I got older. And then around maybe about 5, 6 years old, I was raised by my godparents. So that opened a whole new chapter into my life where I was kind of battling the challenges between understanding losing a parent and gaining this blessing for this new parent and this new family. So it was just a really strange and challenging time for me overall.
Yes, I can imagine that. What were your biological parents like, both as individuals, and how were they when they were together?
So I never had a world where both of my biological parents were together. My mother met my biological father at a very, very early age, and that's another story in itself. But separately, my biological father, when I was younger, was very present. At least he tried to be, considering the circumstances of the personality that my biological mother was. But he was there, and my mother at the time, again, was going through her own thing. So there was a lot of aggression and walking on eggshells. And, you know, with her in the midst of her addiction, it was a really strange time to understand as a child that this is supposed to be my mother figure. But at that time was just a lot of anger and a lot of destruction and a lot of neglect.
You mentioned walking on eggshells, right? Was that you walking on eggshells, or was it your biological father as well walking on eggshells due to what she was bringing into the family?
So it was both. It was both. At that time, my mom had gotten into another relationship. But again, due to kind of her behaviors and her battles, there was a lot of unpredictable moments, a lot of unpredictable emotions and reactions. So that played a really big part into my biological father kind of separating, because she held in her anger and then it exploded. And it usually was in my direction, you know, or sometimes it was in my father's, and that kind of created a divide where there was nothing but fear in me for this like maternal figure in my life. And my father, who wanted to be present in my life, also had his boundaries of how much am I willing, you know, to participate in where it doesn't become detrimental to himself being involved.
Are you an only child?
Biologically, yes.
Okay. Okay. So at the time with both your biological mom and father, there weren't other children in the household.
So I am the only biological product
Okay.
of my biological mother, my biological father. To my knowledge, they have never had a child after me.
Okay.
But growing up, when I was with my biological mother, she had a partner.
Okay.
And I, in those early stages, was raised with 3 other children.
Okay. Because I think as, you know, sometimes someone may find refuge in a sibling, right? So if maybe you feel like your mom, who's supposed to be that safe space, isn't being that safe space, or if maybe you don't have your father in the picture, being able to run to maybe a sibling, a brother or a sister. So I was wondering if you had that.
No, not at that time. In the midst of like the custody battles and me, you know, joining my new family with my sisters and my godparents, I was able to find that, you know, as years went on, and had a great support system with my sisters. But no, in the early years, it was very tough. And even with the siblings that I grew up with, it was a lot of favoritism. So they were granted the new clothes and the new shoes and the new toys, and I was more of the one in the corner with the holes in my shoes and the dirty clothes, and, you know, not necessarily being taken care of or as attentive as all the other kids in the house. So.
Why do you think that was?
I'm actually not too sure. I'm not too sure. And that's something that I've battled with a really long time. I know there was a part of her that really wanted to show that she could be a mother figure and she could be a partner. And I think within that relationship, that was a lot of it, where she tried to kind of show this image of, hey, I can provide and I can be this. And I kind of just got left in the dust in that process until my new family came along.
Your biggest blessing, I'm sure one of your biggest blessings after having started out your life in such a traumatic way.
Yeah.
What kind of relationship did you have with your biological father growing up, if any? Or what do you remember when he was present?
Again, when he was present in the beginning, I was very, very young. So I don't have many fond memories. And due to the relationship between him and mom, there was just a really big gap. So I actually hadn't seen him for about, I'd say, over 10 years since my childhood to my adulthood. And a lot of that, my biological father is much older. So his memory wasn't all the way there. And he had this anger of feeling like this family that was a blessing to me was actually pitted against him to keep his daughter away from him. So that caused a lot of resentment and a lot of anger. And that was slightly addressed, you know, within the 10 years that I had bumped into him in the future. But yeah, he hasn't been a very present figure.
Okay. And how was it when you did bump into him in the future?
It was strange. It was really strange. I had bumped into him at a gas station at the corner of my house
Oh my goodness.
The same house that I have lived in for almost 5 years. And I had bumped into him and I recognized him because he's pretty much looked the same my whole life. And I was like, hey, do you remember me? And again, he's older. So he was like, I don't know. And I was like, I'm Becky Lee. I'm your daughter. And he had a moment of like confusion and realization. And he was like, you are. And he asked for a hug. And I hugged him and he wanted a picture. And you can tell that he was overjoyed with excitement. And then I found out that in those 5 years of me living there, he lived in the street right behind me.
Oh my goodness.
For all of those years. So it seems like we had just missed each other for the past 5 years.
So it was
Of my life.
that reunion was bound to happen at some
Yeah.
point. Wow. How like ironic, right? The irony in that. Like, wow, someone you haven't seen in so many years. You probably wondered about him all these
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Wow. When you reflect on your mom, your biological mom, your biological father now, what emotions come up for you, Becky?
It's a really difficult question to answer.
That's okay.
I think it's different for the both of them. So my biological mother had actually passed 2 years ago. So before her passing, I think I held a lot of just anger and resentment. And I think it was more so for, you know, what I was subjected to as a child. And she was kind of in and out of my life. And I think a lot of it was kind of witnessing the kind of mother she could be, you know, to my step siblings versus the experience that I got with her, you know, in my early stages. So a lot of it was just, I can say it was pure anger. And it was a lot of confusion. It was a why me, you know, and why was I the one? And why did you choose to leave me? And why didn't you get better? And why? It was a lot. And then with her passing, I noticed that a lot of that anger turned into grief and a compassion that I didn't even know existed with my relationship with her. I actually started finding out more about her when she passed than I ever did when she was alive. And putting those pieces together, I realized that this wasn't just a woman who couldn't or didn't want to. This was a woman who had her own struggles and just made a lot of the wrong choices. So I think my emotions tied to her have just always varied. And it's something that I'm still processing to this day, you know, because the 2-year mark comes around. And yeah, a lot of things come up. As far as father, unfortunately, it's something I feel a bit indifferent about.
Okay.
And I almost feel guilty for not having a stronger emotion. But I just feel like due to the lack of presence and
That's
due
it.
to the blessings that I have, you know, in my father figures in my life, I don't ever feel like there was a lack
Yeah.
in that department.
Yeah, and it's okay with not having a specific emotion, because I always say you can't love someone or have like deep emotion for someone that wasn't really present.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like love, it takes time, you know, it builds over time through connection and relationship. And if you didn't have that, you know, I don't blame you for not really having that emotion. You mentioned that you started to learn more about your mom after she passed. So in the years where she was still alive, did she try to connect with you at all? And how were those encounters when she tried?
Yeah. So since a child, she's always tried to connect. First, it was, you know, the ugly custody battles. And then she's had her fair share of kind of being in and out of jail and going through her own like life obstacles. And she's always tried to maintain contact. Unfortunately, in the moments where she tried to maintain contact, it did a lot more harm to me than it did any sort of healing. Because whether it was, I'm going to pick you up today, and I was the kid sitting on the steps and mom never came, or whether it was she disappeared for a few months and she came back and it was just materialistic things. And it was, trying to buy the love or the gestures. But that wasn't the way that I wanted to receive love from my mom.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's always tried to be present, but it always caused destruction.
Yeah.
And again, with the same thing with the blessing that I had for the family, it was seen from her, from family members, that the fact that I was taken away from my biological mother was destructive, and that it was intentional, and that a child should never be away from her biological mother, no matter the situation, and that they belong together. So I think this idea that she had, and this idea that, extended family had, where this was some sort of betrayal, really impacted. So every time she came around, it was anger, and it was, this is my daughter, and give me back to her. And here I am as a teenager, and like, I have my own life, and I have my own family. And
I can see that as sort of like, even if you wanted to try to have a relationship with her because of that resentment, because she felt like you were taken away, you were never going to be able to have that. It's almost like she probably blamed your new family. I'm not sure if that ever happened. But
no, 1,000%,
yeah.
1,000%. And that came from both of my parents, so instead of this, I'm grateful that my daughter, is in a safe place and is being provided for. It was this resentment of she should be here and she should be mine. But when I was there, the story was a little different.
Yeah. You didn't receive what you knew you needed or what you perceived as love.
Yeah.
So after she passed away and you learned more, what changed for you that made you almost feel like, now I can dig a little deeper?
Yeah.
Was it just her, like, now she's not alive, now she can't come at me, or now I don't have to have a difficult conversation with her, she's no longer here, so maybe that makes me want to dig deeper?
Yeah, I think it was a mixture of that. And then one thing that really hit home was contact was always restricted with her when I was younger. And, not due to my parents, but at some point I made a choice in my early teen years of talking to you hurts me more, and being around you hurts me more. And I'll never forget the conversation I had on the house phone that was stuck to the wall with the little landline coming out, and, having that conversation as far as I don't want you in my life. I don't need you in my life.
Wow.
And I had found out, after she had passed, that my godmom, really tried to put in that boundary with her as far as like, hey, when she's older, she's gonna come looking for you. But right now, you're hurting her by continuing to come back. And I'll never forget, a few weeks before I had found out that she passed, I had sat down with my godmom, and it was a very emotional conversation because my biological mother has always been a very taboo topic in my household, just because of all the anger and all the hurt that's been tied to it. And I sat on the back porch with her and I cried, and I was like, I need answers. I need closure. Now that I'm an adult and I feel like I can handle this kind of conversation, I want to come face to face with her, and I want to ask her why. I want to ask her why the hurt. I want to ask her why the habits. I want to know why she subjected me to this and where she's coming from. And then that was when, a few weeks later, my godmom had shared, she's like, I have a feeling something's up, because she never doesn't respond. And if she knew you were looking for her, she would never not respond. And we got the news on the day of her birthday.
Wow.
That she had passed.
Wow. On her birthday. Wow.
So that was a conversation that I never got to have. And that was the part of my healing journey that I felt like I needed, that I can never get the closure to. So I think that really inspired me to kind of just understand her. And I had family members reaching out and providing me pictures and stories and showing me videos from when she was alive, and that kind of helped me fill the hole in some of the mystery, you know, that kind of sat with me.
I'm so happy to know that you got that opportunity, even though you didn't get it with her specifically, but it opened the door to connecting with other family members and filling those gaps a little bit. Yeah. So eventually you were raised by your godparents, as you've mentioned. What was the transition like stepping into this brand new home?
It was tough. It was extremely tough. And not in the sense of like this was a strange home, because my godmom has pretty much been an active parent for most of my life. Even when I was living with my mom, she was one of the main supporters of my mother when she was dealing with her drugs and with her addiction. So I was always there, and I was always, you know, raised with my god sisters and having games and sleeping over and things like that. So as far as like the physical place, it wasn't a crazy transition. But that's when the state got involved. And I remember my official transition was I was already staying with my godparents, and DCF showed up. And I was a kid, and I was playing on the porch, and all of a sudden, you know, a nice lady comes with a badge and a silver car, and I remember the back seats like it was yesterday. And it was like, hey, we're going to go somewhere for a little while. And I was so confused, because I'm like, I'm already safe. I'm already in a home. Like, where do I need to go? And I was put into the back seat, and I was placed into a foster home in a house that I had never been in before, in a family that I did not know, with siblings that I didn't recognize, and a bed that didn't feel like mine. And yeah, they went to court, and they fought, and I eventually, you know, got back into my home. But that gap in between was a really confusing and scary time.
And you're 6 at this point?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Around that, I'm sure. Yeah, if you were so young,
Yeah.
it must be hard to try to articulate what age you were, or even like those memories. But I can imagine that being in your godparents' home was so safe, because I think of my girls now, if ever, God forbid, they had to go elsewhere, if they went to a godparent's house, like you said, they go there all the time. So they know, they're familiar. You know, they may wonder, why am I here? But it's going to feel like a safe place. So I'm so happy to know that you were able to go back to that safe place that you knew, that you recognized, that you were familiar with, that you knew you'd be okay. How did your godparents shape the structure and stability in your life after everything you had experienced very, very early on in your life?
They were amazing providers. There was never a lack when it came to my godparents, which I was extremely grateful for. Coming from a home where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from, and I didn't know, you know, what clothes were going to be put on me for school, or even if I was going to make it to school the next day. So they did a beautiful job with taking care and providing for me.
Your life early on didn't have stability, right? You didn't know, maybe, as you mentioned, how you were going to make it to school the next day, or what you were going to wear. But now you're in this safe place. So I know you and I have chatted a little bit, and you have mentioned that independence was something that your godparents really, really emphasize. So how did that influence this amazing woman you are today?
Thank you. It honestly was one of the biggest aspects of my life growing up. So they had instilled this very firm make it happen for yourself mentality, which growing up was really beneficial, was also almost detrimental to me in some spaces. And I'll never forget growing up, you're not asking for help and you're not receiving handouts. And if you want something, make it happen, and you're going to make it happen yourself. So no, you're not going to accept money, or you're not going to accept people who kind of just give you things. You're going to work for it. And if you don't work for it, then it's just not going to happen. And it's something that's honestly helped me get this far. You know, I remember working, I think I got my first job at 15. By 18, I was working 3 jobs.
Wow. Wow.
By 18 years old, I was working 3 jobs. I managed to save up $10K for my
most
first...
adults can't save $10K, Becky.
A few years ago, $10K got you a really, really long way. So that was major.
Wow.
I saved up $10K I paid for driving school myself. I paid for my first used car myself. I saved up enough to get my first apartment, first security, last payment, furniture, all by myself. So that independence in me was super strong.
And that wouldn't have been possible without them, what they instilled in you. That's so important. I mean, we are who we, like, what's being instilled in us, what we hear, what's ingrained in our minds every day as we're growing up. I believe that that's how we turn out to be.
Yeah.
And so they did a really good thing. But then you also say on the flip side of that, tell us how that has affected you, maybe in a not so great way.
Yeah. Honestly, it's almost like a rewiring that I've had to do. And as a lovely friend once told me, it's like, you know, chewing the meat, spitting the bones. It's about, you know, taking what's substantial and kind of putting aside what's not. So with that, this hyper independence that I had was really based off of not needing anyone, not wanting to attach to anyone, not wanting to lean on anyone. And I realized growing up that had such a big impact on my friendships and even my relationships. You know, like my current relationship, the idea of I want to help you pay a bill, or I want to buy something for you, or I want to give you, you know, this money or this gift just because almost felt disrespectful to me in the beginning, because again, this idea of this independence was, well, I can buy that myself. You know, I can pay this bill by myself. So there was almost this idea in my head that any sort of help that came to me felt like a shot to my ego.
Like, are you trying to say I can't do it on my own?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something that I've had to work through. And even with friends, I've had friends who have offered to pay for lunch or offered to take me somewhere, or if I didn't have a car, you know, offered rides. And to me, there was such this shame of like well, if I can't do it myself, why am I going to let you do it for me? Like, I don't deserve this help. And it took, you know, my partner and my closest friends to kind of be like, no, you're human, and we do this because we love you. Not because we expect something back, and not because, you know, this is something that you earn, but because human to human, it's okay to not just be you.
For you to not always be the one providing for yourself, doing for yourself. It's okay for others to do for you as well. That's the way they show love. That's the way they show, like, we got your back, girl. We love you.
Yeah.
We got you. So with your current partner, have you let that guard down a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's definitely still a sense of, again, the morals that were instilled in me. Like, priorities are absolutely number one. And I still have the mindset of, bills are going to come first and I'm going to make sure
Yes.
my stuff is done. But I've definitely allowed myself to let that guard down. And I'm like, okay, a little
Yes.
gift here, a little chip in here doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. Yes, book that trip, please. I'm going on
Right.
it. I love that. So, mental health and addiction have shaped so many parts of your story, Becky. What has that journey looked like, and what have you learned through it?
Now I work in the mental health field. So I'd say mental health has pretty much shaped me and who I am in my career and kind of just the person that I've become.
There's often a taboo culture around not talking about mental health, right? Especially within families. I feel like we don't touch that. We don't talk about that. Mental health is real and we all struggle in one way or another. And I feel that like pointing it out or talking about it creates this like, I don't know, like almost like embarrassment. Like, why do we have to be embarrassed about that? We do such a good job of going to the doctor every year for our physical, right? And making sure our organs and our blood work comes back normal. But what about this up here?
Right.
You know, like that needs maintenance as well. And it's okay to admit that we're struggling with it. So, Becky, how do you feel that the experiences that you went through in your childhood impact the work that you do now in the mental health field?
I think it has so much to do with everything that I do in the field. In the beginning of working in the mental health field, it was a major trigger. And that's nothing that anyone can really prepare you for because I think, whether it's trauma or grief or whatever the circumstances are, I think ultimately we feel like we get to a place where we're good. Like, okay, I can wake up every day and I'm good and I can work and I can do this and I can help and I'm fine. I didn't expect working with kids to have such a trigger on some of my memories and some of my experiences. And I remember working, like, these were conversations that I had with my bosses and I was like, hey, there is a girl who is in an abusive household who has also dealt with, parents with drug abuse or whatever the circumstances were. And I'm like, this is such a trigger for me. And it was almost like debilitating at points where I would have shutdowns or I had to remove myself from my role and put myself in a position of, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Because I felt like that little girl again.
Yeah.
And kind of just seeing these kids in these positions, and again, and not necessarily relating specifically to mine, but I think it's really benefited me, not only being able to relate to them, but have fought through a lot of these situations, and whether it's the depression or the trauma or the challenges, it's really helped me become, the role model that I want to be and be that positive and safe support for these kids, because that's something that I felt like I really lacked as a child. So it's such a rewarding thing to feel like I can be that person that I felt I never had when I was younger.
Yeah, I'm sure that brings so much healing because I feel that oftentimes when we've struggled with something, putting ourselves back in those situations and helping others who are going through it, like that, for sure. Because I know in my own experiences, like losing my son to cancer, being able to help other families whose children have cancer, that brought healing. Because again, I'm putting myself in that same situation where yes, it's triggering, it sucks, it hurts. I don't want to sit down with a parent and listen to them. I really don't. I know it sounds harsh, but like I don't want to have to sit with a parent who's crying because their child has cancer. I don't want to do that. That hurts. But yet again, every time it brings some healing to me, so I can see how that's so powerful for you. It's helping you heal. It's rewarding. But Becky, let's just say it's helping the youth that you're working with. I don't know. Are you allowed to share with them anything that you've been through?
Not specifically.
Okay.
But a lot of my kids, like I work with a lot of teenagers, so I think there's a really beautiful leeway as far as like, hey, I see you. And I hear you and I understand you so much more than you know.
Got it.
So it's not really specifics. Like, we're not really allowed to indulge in, like family conversation or personal things. But even on the level of, you feel alone, and I get that. And you feel misunderstood, and I get that. And you don't feel safe, or you don't feel yourself. And that's something that you sit on and that you're depressed about, and that, like, and I get that. So I think it's just that level of, I can share, that I can understand you as much as I can, in that moment, and just tell you I'm here for you, and that I see you, and that I'm with you, and I promise you it does get better. It does.
There's just something so beautiful and freeing in being able to sit down with someone who understands you and sees you, and for them to be like, wow, like, she's there for me, she's helping me through this moment, right? You're their mentor, and they're like, she does understand me, that's a beautiful thing. Okay, Becky, so there was a turning point in your story, a moment where things started to shift. Can you take us back to that moment and what it felt like for you?
I'd say that really substantial moment was in my just turning 20s, where I very quickly realized that my habits and my way of healing through what I was going through was actually mirroring all of the things that I had observed and absorbed throughout my life. So in my very early 20s, it was a lot of smoking and drinking and surrounding myself with very unhealthy people, because it was a temporary happiness.
Girl, preach.
And now that I no longer do any of those things, I've come to the realization that a lot of it was just to numb. I was too afraid to address the grief, and too afraid to address the anger, and even sit with myself, and come to terms with the shame and the guilt and all the hardships that were sitting inside of me. So I chose anything and everything to not have to sit with it and not have to face it. I reached a really, really dark point in my life where I was ready to end it all. And that was something that I had struggled with for years. For years. Since a kid, I had always dealt with my depression. And that was always masked in just me being overly dramatic or overly sensitive. And not realizing that as an adult, there was just so many things that I harbored inside, and I was just looking for an escape, whatever that escape was at the moment. And my turning point was when I started to gain weight, because all I wanted to do was smoke, and I wanted to eat, and I wanted to drink, and I wanted to just be out all the time. And my official turning point was when I was having full-blown panic attacks in my home, in a safe and in a calm space, in a space that was mine. And I would come home and I couldn't breathe, and I would cry, and my hands would go numb, and my feet would go numb, and my partner sat there and was just so confused as to, like, what are we doing here? And I'll never forget, I had the conversation with him about just, I don't think I can be here anymore. I don't think I have a purpose to fill. I don't think I have another day to see. I can't do this anymore. And it took him sitting and waiting and being there for me every single day, in fear that he was going to lose me. And the reality of the impact that I was having, not facing, my emotions and trying to escape and trying to drown it out and trying to let go of it, how that impacted everybody else around me. And I just didn't see it. And at that moment, I chose that I deserved more and that my partner deserved more, my family deserved more, because the idea of having to explain to my nieces and nephews that Titi isn't around anymore. And my doggy.
Your doggy.
My doggy not having mommy come home.
What's your doggy's name?
Chloe. She is the light of my life.
Oh. Yeah.
And I think that was a major point for me, where I really had to sit with myself and recognize, like, you're not allowed to turn into these habits anymore. You're not allowed to mask. You're not allowed to pretend to be everything that you are pretending to be. We have to sit here and we have to do the work to make sure that we don't continue feeling this way every single day.
Yeah. Becky, talk to us a little bit about where you found that power, because I can relate to you in terms of going to the smoking weed or drinking. For me, I was sleeping around with men, drinking, smoking, partying every weekend to numb that pain, like you said, and it's just a temporary thing. The next morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be like, oh, I just slept with this dude last night. He already left back home. He's probably back with his girlfriend and my high is over and I have a headache because I'm hungover, but I don't feel better.
Right.
And my son is still dead. And I feel like God hates me because he took my kid from me. Yeah. But I found a power, which was faith, right? And believing that God just had something like much bigger in store for me, and that couldn't be it. Like, it couldn't be, I'm gonna drink my weekends away and smoke them and sleep with men. Like, God must have something more. Where did you find that power, Becky, to say there has to be more? Like, I don't want my nephews or nieces to not have Titi, or Chloe to not have her mommy come home. Where did you find that power?
Transparently, I think it was really within myself. And it was coming to the conclusion of, yes, I'm not happy with my life and I'm not happy with A, B, and C, but I kind of like me. I think I'm a nice person, and I think I'm a good partner, and I think I'm a cool titi. And it was recognizing that I do have a little more in my cup than I had anticipated. And it's, how do we fill the cup? So for me, it was reading. That was something that I used to love as a kid. I used to read, and I poured myself back into my art. I used to paint when I was younger, and I stopped. And I think it was just a lot of finding, like, my childhood joys again, and finding those little silly things that felt like, oh, I'm an adult and I shouldn't have to do that. And it's like, no, I want to get my favorite blanket, and I want to cuddle in a corner, and I want to read this book that makes me laugh, and I want to paint this little portrait, and it might come out hideous, but for that hour, my brain was quiet, and I felt okay. And then yoga was a really, really big thing for me. The ability to recognize the mind-body connection for myself was major. And then my biggest savior, I would say, is Mother Nature. That was so big. So all those days of me bedrotting and, you know, being in all of these hectic and crazy spaces that weren't, nature forced me to sit with it. It was nothing but me and the trees.
That's it, girl. My friend, as you're speaking, I have a friend going through a really tough time. And the other day she sent a picture in the group chat, and she's like, just me and nature. And she literally said, like, nature is so healing.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
It really is. You can't be sad in nature. You can't be. And to me, like, I would go to, like, the dinosaur tracks.
Yeah.
Or I would go to the mountain, and I would sit on a rock, and I would cry. I would cry, or I would journal, or I would read, or I would whisper to myself all the things that I was so afraid to say out loud to everyone else. And that in itself helped me so much. So I think to me, it was more of the finding a way to acknowledge, finding a way to release. And okay, how do we fill the cup back up again? What are we going to do that makes us feel good? Not whole, but makes us feel good again after everything has gone. So that helped me a ton.
And realizing you really like yourself.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because you're like, I realize I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I like myself. You like yourself, and that's enough for you to just want to do better. And you love the people in your life, and you want it to be better for them.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, my son didn't die in vain. Like, my son came to this beautiful earth. He was with us for almost 4 years, and then he left. And then I'm like, he didn't die in vain. So I can't end up being nothing. I can't just be the girl having sex with random dudes every weekend and,
Right.
you know, smoking, getting high and getting drunk. Like, I have to do more. So then that with the power of God and like the faith that I had in him helped me to be like, I don't need to medicate, right? Because that's what we do. We just medicate to numb the feeling of depression and anxiety and hopelessness and all of that. Becky, we've talked about a lot of beautiful things and a lot of hard truths today, but is there any message that you have for our listeners, our viewers, on specifically on mental health, addiction, anything you might want to share with them that we haven't said yet?
Yeah. I'd say the biggest thing is listening to yourself and not making yourself small. I think that's the most powerful thing that you can really, really hold on to. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to feel big feelings. It's okay to be a little weird. It's okay to be dramatic and to ask for help and to have that attention on you. It's okay to take up space and whatever that means for you. I don't think you need to drown yourself in the world. I don't think you need to be just another person or a fly on the wall or mix in with everything else. This is your own experience, and you are your own human, and it's okay to have that journey and to have that uniqueness in you, because
Girl,
it's important.
that is so on brand with everything that I've been experiencing, everything I've been talking about, a lot of the conversations we've had on this podcast. I never heard it in that way. It's okay to take up space.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to use that from now on. I'm always saying like, I'm tired of shrinking myself, but I love it's okay to take up space. Like, stop shrinking yourself. It's okay to take up that space. That is so important. This is the one beautiful life we have, and it's okay to live it in a way that matters to us.
Absolutely.
Oh, so loving all of this. So, all right, girls. So to wrap it up here, we're going to do a quick lightning round. Okay. Quick, fun questions, 1-word answers, or whatever comes to mind. It's never one word. I kid you not. It's never one word. Okay. What's your go-to comfort food when you need a little happiness on a tough day?
Burritos.
Doritos?
Burritos.
Burritos. Okay, I was going to say ranch or the other one.
My guilty pleasure is just Mexican food. Anytime, anywhere. Yeah.
Burritos. All right. If you could instantly book a trip anywhere right now, no responsibilities, no limits, where are you going?
Puerto Rico.
Have you ever been?
I've been once, and it feels like home.
It
That's
is.
the best way I've always said Puerto Rico just feels like a warm hug.
Oh, I love that description. It is home. And it's funny because every time I leave Puerto Rico, I'm sad to leave.
Yeah.
And everyone I speak to, they feel the same way.
I've missed it every day since.
I love this. I love this so much. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Yes.
I am secretly a 75-year-old woman inside.
Wow.
I am. And I can't be up past 8 p.m. If I'm out with friends, I'm the first one leaving early. I am in PJs, in my bed, 9 p.m. sharp.
I'm always so impressed by morning people because I'm a night owl and I'm in bed by like 2, maybe 2:33, and then I sleep until like 10 if I don't have to work early in the morning. So I'm always impressed by early morning people. I love that. They do say that waking up earlier, you're more productive.
Yeah.
It's like a great way to start your mornings, your day. So I should start doing that. If your friends had to describe you in 3 words, what do you think they would say?
It's a really good question for my friends. They usually describe me as kind. I I am a self-proclaimed comedian in my life. So I'd say funny, and I'm very giving. I am just the friend where if you need a home-cooked meal, or if you need a couch to cry on, or if you just need someone to go into the mountain and yell with you or have a good time, I am that friend.
That's
so,
you.
Yeah.
Kind, funny, giving. Perfect. I love that. I need me a friend like you. I need me a friend like you, Becky.
I'm here.
Oh, Becky, this has been a beautiful, beautiful time with you. We've been looking forward to it for a while. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
With us today. I'm excited to see what will come out of it. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You can't heal what you keep hiding, and you can't break cycles by pretending they don't exist. What patterns am I ready to stop repeating, even if it means starting over scared? Peace starts when you choose to stop running from your pain. Becky's story is one of survival, strength, and surrender. She opened up about growing up in chaos, about the mental and emotional toll of being a child in a world that never felt stable. She talked about how those early wounds shaped her adulthood and how hard it's been to unlearn survival mode. But what makes Becky's story more powerful is her honesty. She's not pretending she has it all figured out. She's learning, healing, and choosing to show up anyway, even on the hard days, even when it feels like the cycle wants to repeat itself. Her journey reminds us that healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about facing it. Naming what hurt you, forgiving who didn't know better, and giving yourself permission to create something new. Ready to share what you've never said out loud? Visit truthwithoutedits.com and head to the Submit Your Truth tab to send your story. You can even submit anonymously. While you're there, feel free to check out our merch, stream the latest episodes, and join a community that's finally saying it all. Don't forget to subscribe and follow the show so you can stay in the know and be the first to hear when new episodes drop. Until next time, truth tellers, keep showing up loud and unedited.